not playing? I can't hear it. Okay, okay. It might be too low for stream, but hi, 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 hi. Hello, everybody. Hi, Henderson. Welcome. Hi, QB. Hi, Craze. Hi, second chatter. Craze, L, Bozo ratio. Okay, okay, guys. So today we have a new guest. Yes, yes.
Hello.
Wahaha. Hi, Phoebe. So it was. You said it was Aish, right?
Aish, yes.
Aish. Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So this is Aish. He uses he they pronouns. So everybody be nice, or I will kick you out. I'm eyeing you. I will fight you.
So to be specific there, I put he they in most places just because
Mm-hmm.
that's the easiest way to put it. Really, you can call me whatever you want. I'm not going to give you any issues for it, but that's usually what I'll tell people. Just because
Oh, okay,
it
cool.
tends to fly easiest.
Oh, okay. So, uh, since you're saying that you like any pronouns, is there like ones that you like preferably like? Is it like he, they, or is it like, hey, I like any pronouns as long as you don't use my default ones, which would be he?
Um, Not even really that. It's just that I assume we're going to get into this more detailed later, but I believe we talked about it a little before we went
Mm-hmm.
live, where the way that I see my whole gender and everything is just that more I am myself, and that encompasses many things, some of them masculine, some of them feminine, some of them entirely unrelated to the concept of gender. So, really, regardless of what you call me, it's going to be accurate to some degree and inaccurate to another degree.
Mm-hmm.
So, really, as long as you're not being deliberately rude about it, I'm fine with pretty much anything.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, sorry if that's sort of, I don't know, strange.
No, 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 no. It's not strange at all. This is pretty much what it's about. Um, we just talk about this stuff. It's not weird. Um, like myself, I just go by they them pronouns. I try to go by any pronouns, but then people will look at me and then just default to she her, and it's just like that hurts my feelings. It makes me feel icky, you know. So explaining yourself honestly just genuinely helps us understand you and where you're coming from and why you prefer, certain ones, or you're just like just any. So it's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, like
um
when I'm streaming, the part of the reason we talked all about this a bit before as well,
mhm.
but part of the reason that when I'm streaming, all I will just refer to myself as my name, partly because that's just the character, but partly because that's just it expresses my view of myself more than like using pronouns and things does. I feel like.
Yeah.
That said, it's also a little like it's hard for me to keep it up all the time. So I 100% don't expect other people to do that. And I am not actually like hurt or put out or anything by people calling me by pronouns. It's just that I like to refer when I'm streaming, at least I like to refer to myself as Aij.
Okay. Not to get too personal, but like offside of like off of stream, kind of like in your real life, out like in the public. Um, I do imagine it does like vary as well. Um, how is it like when does it hurt you in any way, like when you separate the two and it's like outside of it you're just referred to as something else, and then online you're referred as something else? Like, does it ever hurt you or like cause any personal confusion?
Um, I mean, I'm really fortunate in that the way that I have sort of conceptualized it, I don't run into a lot of those issues. Um, because generally speaking, what I'll do, I work from home. I can't go into too much specific about it,
Yeah, of
but
course.
I talk to people on the phone a lot, and I do get called both, um, like sir, ma'am, he, she, all that. I get called by various pronouns just because phones are bad. Like the way that
Yeah.
phones work, you sometimes get some confusion. Sometimes a voice higher or lower, and people get the wrong idea. it doesn't affect me at all. People will just sort of call. People will call me whatever they're going to call me. I usually don't specify because regardless of what assumptions they have, it's it's all a part of what I am. Even if they aren't necessarily referring to all of me, which no
Yeah.
one is going to anyway, because no one is me. No one's going to have the full context of everything that is what I am. So
Of course.
honestly, it's okay. I don't run into those issues. I'm extremely fortunate in that. I don't think in any way that anyone else is required to be like that, to not have those issues, or that it's somehow, or that I am in some way, better than anyone. It's just I happen to be really fortunate. The way that I understand myself happens to make it really easy to get along with society. Even though I have sort of been awakening to all of this stuff recently. It has been a very personal journey recently.
Yeah. How's like I don't even know how to word this. I want to be like, how's that journey going for you, But I kind of want to be like more detailed with the question. Because I
I
know
mean,
when
that's a
you
decent question.
applied, you were just like, you're still like defining and like still early in the stages of the journey and such. Um,
Yeah.
so what what kind of like part of it is just kind of like I'm not too sure, but I kind of have this idea, like for myself, it took quite some years for me to realize that I was a lesbian, like I went through so many stages of like self-titling and like going from like bi to pansexual, and then pansexual didn't feel good, so I went back to bi, and then I finally landed on lesbian, and then the gender thing, I was like, she, her hurts my feelings. She, they kind of just, it feels okay, but it still kind of hurt my feelings. And then they, them was just kind of like, okay, this feels good. So, my journey kind of just, I went all over the place, and then I finally landed in this, like in the early stages of right now, kind of like, where's your head at? You know? Like maybe kind of like talking it out, or like this earlier in your stages, like maybe we can talk it out and kind of steer you a little bit more down a little more one side of a path than kind of just this big old sidewalk, like, do I go on the right or do I go on the left? Do I go in the middle? Do I cross the
Yeah.
street?
It's a that is actually a really good question. It is a question that I have been trying to answer for months. Is the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because isn't that really just the entire question of everyone that's going through this? Is where am I? What am I? What exactly? Who am I? Who is I?
Who
Really,
who
like when
who
you
I
think about
be?
it. Yeah. Where understanding yourself is a journey. It is a journey you have to go through. It's a process. It's not a single decision you make. It's not a single, like, for some people it does end up
Thank you
being
for the
feeling
Lexel.
like this one moment where something happens and they just click. It's like, oh, I feel like I'm not the same person as everyone thinks I am, the same gender
Mm-hmm.
identity, same sexuality, whatever. Some people, it does feel like it's like a single instance where they just figure it out, and there are people that are like that, where they just sort of realize it, they just have an epiphany. I think from what I've seen from my little experience with this, it feels like for a lot of people, and for me as well, it is a journey you go through where you're learning more about yourself and how you see the world and how you see yourself, how you
Yeah.
conceptualize what you are, um, in both a sort of philosophical and psychological and everything, and even a physical way for people. For me, I was a lot more. Um, I, Wording is difficult for this, but
Yeah,
I
no.
was a lot
Take your
more
time.
earlier in the journey when I applied. I will say that.
Okay.
Where So everything really started for me, to be honest with you, when I initially conceptualized this character. They were
Okay.
originally for a game I was in, actually. They weren't called Aijen, they were called Kishar. They were a character that I was playing, and um, while I was going through and sort of building a story for them and building a sort of like, psychology and everything for them and putting everything together, it resonated with me in just in a way that I couldn't really describe at the time.
Mhm.
and really kicked me up. I was like, okay, so why do I feel like this about this character? And when that game sort of died a bit later, I really liked the design, and partly because of that resonance I'd felt, I decided to just sort of keep them and start using them as my online identity, which was really interesting because in case anyone is really bad at hearing like tonality and things or whatever, and hard has issues identify this, you can very easily hear that I was born male. My avatar does not look like that, so that
What? You
already
saying you
was
don't
like,
have a bunch of eyes?
no, well, yeah, yes, I am a wizard from space. I have many eyes. Um, in any case, but yeah, I I've been it's been a journey. At the time, I wasn't even fully sure that I 100% personally identified as like non-binary or anything of the sort. And
Mhm.
even then, that feels like a very narrow definition to me still. Which it's not. It's literally just I do not feel like either of the pre-described binaries, but at the same time, there's bits of femininity and masculinity in there. Like there are things there, and it feels. I don't have a good word for it yet, and non-binary might be it. That might be the most accurate that we're gonna get. But I didn't necessarily even call myself that at the time. I didn't even necessarily think of myself as at that time. Um, I had only at that time started to really think of myself as either like I was still sort of going through the other half of things where I was trying to figure out am I like sexuality, because
Mhm.
for the longest time I'd been like, well, I'm probably mostly straight, but then over time I realized, well, keep saying that, but I also have zero interest in like doing any of that stuff with actual people. So, maybe some sort of demisexual or asexual thing might be more accurate. So I was in that, and then other things happened, and I started sort of thinking um, about the like gender and how I conceptualized that and how I thought of myself, and it just sort of led to me. The way that I will usually joke about it with friends is that I
Hey,
stared at my navel
sorry,
too
my
long,
dogs are like fighting.
philosophized. Don't do that, dogs. Be friends. But yeah, I
I
ended up
recently
philosophizing
adopted a
too hard
dog.
and accidentally zero subbing my gender. It's fine.
Yeah.
But really, the journey is endless. So I don't think that I can necessarily tell you a specific point in it that I am in, other than just where I am right now. I've sort of gotten to a semi stable state at this point.
Mhm.
But I'm sure there's always more to figure out about how you see yourself and how you see the way you interact with the world and the and to get a deeper understanding of who and what you are. So there's
Yeah.
always more to learn, but I've gotten to a point where I at least have an idea of what's going on in there now.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad since then, there's been some sort of development.
Yeah,
Um, Let me see. 'Cause you were mentioned about not necessarily like feeling connected to any gender and such like that. Um, so there is I think there is oh, sorry, give me 1 second. These I recently adopted a dog and my other one hasn't been around dogs for a while and they're kind of arguing,
they
so give me
haven't quite
1 second.
socialized yet.
Yeah, give me what they're fighting right underneath my desk. Give me 1 second.
Oh, little guys, what are you doing?
Okay, so her name's not Gas Cap, guys. Her name is Stella, but yes. So Gas Cap's trying to play with Coco, but Coco's not having it. Coco's resting underneath my desk on the pillow, and Gas Cap is taunting her and wants to play with her. But
Oh
Coco's like,
no.
"No, I don't want to play. You're too big. You're
I
scary."
I am tired.
She started playing back a little bit right now. I just wanted to keep an eye on them because the last time they played, they fought like an hour later and they fought right behind me and I was in the middle of work and I was like, I can't stop this, guys. She's only been here for like
Uh,
4 days.
it's a
Okay.
process for
It seems like
dogs,
they
for
yeah, it
sure.
seems like they hang out, they relaxed a little bit. So I just wanted to make sure that they were gonna be okay. Um, okay, let me see, because I had a doc up that I was speaking with when I was talking to Fern. Let me see if I can find that really quick.
Okay.
Because there is, if you're like kind of like me, that like I feel like you need to have like a title to feel kind of, this is where I belong, and it's like I won't feel like a fraud, like I won't feel like I don't know what's happening, or like I don't know. I like to have a title because people would be like, "Oh, what are you?" You know? So I'm like, "Oh, I'm a non-binary lesbian," you know? So I personally like to have like that
It's
a thing, because then it feels more
it
like I
serves a
know who I am.
utilitarian purpose.
Yeah, like I just feel like I just know who I am. Okay, let me see if I can read this.
Like words are useful. They're how we communicate with ideas
Okay,
to each other, and
yeah. So it would be agender. It's when you have no inner sense of like gender identity, meaning like you have no gender, like you just don't feel a connection to either one of them. Um, you
I
could
had
also just
considered that.
be like, uh huh,
I had considered that. The issue that I sort of have with that as a word for myself is that um, it's not that I don't feel like I have any connection to either at all. It's more that neither one of them fully describes the totality of me. Like there are masculine features in there are feminine features in there, and I identify those as themselves, and they are
hmm.
part of like what you would see as as the genders that are associated with them. But neither of them really fully encompasses myself as a whole, which I feel is true for basically everyone. But people identify with different parts of themselves and things like that. That's not
So
bad. But
with that being said, there is paragender. So, it's experiencing a wide variety of genders may feel that they experience genders beyond their ability to describe.
potentially, I'll definitely be making a note of that.
Yeah, so there's paragender. There's also polygender or multigender. Kind of it's between the same. This one's just like multiple genders, either simultaneously or varying between them.
Yeah. Um,
Let's
Yeah, like
see.
really the
I
best description I
think,
have for it is that I have kind of a I don't want to say a zen relationship to gender
yeah,
because that sounds more religious than it is, but like it's the same kind of concept where just things are what they are. I'm myself.
yeah,
Anything other than calling me myself is inherently going to be inaccurate to some degree or another.
which is
Um
totally valid.
so like even agender isn't really like while I don't necessarily directly associate myself with either gender, like there are facets in there. So I wouldn't necessarily say that's 100% accurate either because nothing can really be 100% accurate. There's a reason why when I'm in character, when I'm just dialing myself up to like full like overacting basically, I just use my name. Like they just don't believe in pronouns. But at the same time, and the idea is that it's very much a philosophical sort of idea almost where whoa,
Yeah, I live on a very busy street.
hello car.
It was
Um,
Lightning McQueen.
yeah, it's very much sort of an idea of like I think of the ones you've described, probably paragender is the most
Hmm.
closest to being entirely accurate, I can say.
You
But
definitely don't
I
have to
don't.
like pick one today, you know? I just kind of like wanted to
Yeah, like
throw out
I
some
may
of
not.
these out there. Maybe
Yeah,
it'll
and
have some
that's definitely food for
association.
thought.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I may never actually choose any specific label for it,
Hmm.
because like I don't. It's really hard to explain, but like labels feel like a reduction to me.
Of course.
And like I'm not saying that has to be everyone's experience of it. Everyone has their own view of things, their own reasoning, and their own psychology and things like that. So it's not a bad thing to like having these words to apply to yourself or to people like you to give as a sort of explanation. But I sort of feel like any label that I could apply to what I am would sort of on some level be either incomplete or just false.
Hmm.
So I prefer just to use the shorthand of just I am myself. I don't really see any reason to be more and to really go by anything other than that.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of generally like around the non-binary umbrella because a lot of us like to just, like I'm just me, you know?
Yeah, like non.
I'm just a little guy and gender's weird and
Yeah,
sometimes I want to look like this, sometimes I look like that, sometimes I feel like this, and sometimes I just don't want to feel it at all. So
yeah, like it.
I can definitely
It's
see
a
that you're under that like umbrella, not specifically that term, but the umbrella at least.
yeah,
Um,
like as like a not necessarily a prescriptive description, but as a sort of broad categorization. Non-binary is probably gonna be not non-binary. Was it non-binary? Whatever.
yes,
Yeah,
non-binary.
non-binary, not agender. Non-binary is probably going to be the best one, just because it's just non-binary. There's a whole scope of things in here. There's not.
Yeah,
It's
which
not
is
that I
where
am
like
on. Like I'm
agender
not
would fall
required to
under.
be on one. And yeah, like agender is a specific expression of non-binary. I feel like.
Yes, yeah,
Whereas just non-binary is just the entire scope, and you can express that in a multitude of ways. And
yeah.
just because there isn't a specific term for necessarily any particular one of them doesn't mean that it's not a useful thing. It's just I'm non-binary. It's fine. It's a whole spectrum, but it's okay. That is enough.
So I know you mentioned like you started feeling this way when your character was created. Was there like
Yeah.
maybe at some point like growing up that you can recall that you might have felt this way? Like I myself, I remember since like middle school or like even elementary school, I just never really fit in with the girls, and I was just like I was a little different or I liked more things that the boys liked. My mom was not happy about it.
Um.
But like there were definitely signs like growing up and I just kind of like ignored them up into my adulthood or like high school when I kind of realized like, oh, wait, it's not normal to feel this way. Or was it just kind of like you made this character and then you're like, wait a second.
I will be honest with you. When I was a kid, I was far too depressed to think about any of this.
Okay.
um. I have issues with that. I'm actually on medication now. I don't mind talking about that. I'm perfectly okay with going over everything, but I recently got into therapy and I started getting treated, and this has been one of the many things that being in a more stable frame of mind has helped me sort of come
Yeah.
to terms with, to be honest with you. And there may have possibly been indicators earlier on, in that I've never been overly attached to anything specifically as far as expression wise. I've
Mm-hmm.
mostly been very like I dress in ways that are convenient and useful to me. Which means I end up dressing very masculine in general because I like pockets, but like it's very much I do things that work for me, and that's just generally all I really cared about. But I didn't really identify it as anything other than just personal preference until I sort of realized, like, hey, there's this. I've had a couple characters that I've made that have been sort of exploring this idea of people who don't really have a strong concept or in this case a concept at all
Mm-hmm.
of like gender and sexuality, and that has had a really has had this sort of resonance with me. So maybe I should explore that some more.
Yeah. I would encourage it. It's just self-identifying and self-exploring is always a little scary because it's like you're learning a lot about yourself, and in ways that you've never thought about before. Um, so I
Hmm.
hope that you, even though it's going to be scary, you allow yourself to take those like scary steps. I mean, like you said, you are getting help, and you're in a much better state of mind than you were before. So
Yeah.
hopefully with all of that, it makes it a little less scary. And if you honestly ever have any questions, even after this, or if like during this you just think of something, like I'm always open to talk, especially when it comes to like
Hmm.
self-identity. Like I didn't have that for myself, which is why I created Beyond the Queer, because it's like I want to be able to give that space to talk about scary things that we probably don't even know about ourselves yet. Or just kind of like,
Yeah.
hey, have you ever felt this way? Because I don't think this is normal and it's scary and I wish like I'm sure there's someone out
Yeah.
there that probably feels like this way about like the way I do, because not everyone's experience is the same, but at some point there has to be someone out there that feels the same way that you do.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Um,
sure there are people. Yeah. I say this a lot, but I feel like I am really fortunate with my experience in that I have sort of come to the point where sort of exploring these things have become almost meditative for me.
oh,
Whereas
okay.
I'm not really worried about going into these things. It's just that they're things that are I don't they're not really fun to explore, but it's considering these things and sort of following through the paths of association and thought and things like that is kind of relaxing almost.
Yeah.
So I'm extremely fortunate in that partly because my particular identity doesn't really it's not really public in my personal life because it doesn't have to be. Like I just happen to be extremely lucky in that I just present as myself and people react to me how they're going to react to me, and I don't really have any response to that, so I don't really run into any issues there. And also and that is probably part of why facing who I am and sort of exploring it doesn't really hold the same kind of, well, at least gender wise, doesn't hold the same kind of fear that I feel like a lot of people deal with. Um, which is part of why when I actually join this, it does give me sort of a feel of almost like imposter syndrome, where I show up here as like, well, I do identify as this, and I feel these ways, and I'm definitely feel like I am part of this whole descriptor that the show is for.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like almost because I'm not having these same difficulties that I see a lot of people going through, and I definitely I feel for them, and I wish that they didn't have to go through that. Maybe like my story isn't necessarily maybe as interesting or as valid as someone who's had more trouble with it. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, that was gonna be my next
but
question.
like,
If you were like in your personal life, like outside of all of this, if you were kind of like gender expressive or kind of out to people and like how that was with your family and such, or like if at
um,
work, do you like say, hey, use these pronouns for me, or it's just kind of like, oh, it's fine, because I myself am extremely vocal about my sexuality and my pronouns because I want to make sure
yeah,
no men are making any advances towards me because I have been harassed.
yeah, yeah. This is another thing where I get to, I'm gonna stop saying that I'm lucky because that feels almost like self defacing almost. But no, yeah. The way that I deal with it usually, because of the way that the way that I view myself is, I feel like a very sort of philosophical and personal sort of journey that I'm on. And sort of the view I have of myself is something personal. A lot of the
Mm-hmm.
times, I just won't bring it up and let people. Cause like I work from home, I work remote. I don't see a lot of people in person a lot,
Yeah,
and
same.
because of the way that phones work and the way that talking works, you get confused. People get confused, and they call me by whatever pronouns they immediately assume that I have. And because I don't know whether it's because the phone system pitch shifts my voice up 3 octaves, or just people assume customer service, so obviously it's a woman. It's weirdly often she, despite the fact that my voice feels to me at least deeper than you'd normally expect. And I don't have any issues with that. And if they call me he, I don't have any issues with that. If they default to just using non-gender because they don't know, that's also fine. Um, so I don't really have to.
Okay.
Um,
Do-
because I have the sort of view of just anything they call me is gonna be equally wrong, so I don't have any problem with any of it. Because it's not worth going into the whole like philosophical, like, oh, I am not any given one of these terms. I am not a they, I'm not a he, I'm not a she, I am like all of those things and more and all that. It sort of loops back around to just call me whatever. It's not it's anything you call me is going to be about as inaccurate as anything else, so I don't really have an issue with it.
yeah.
um which is something. So that means I don't really discuss it very much with people in person, just because there's not usually a reason to. Like occasionally if it comes up in conversation, I'll bring it up and I'll talk about it because it's a whole thing. But usually I don't really have the, oh, that's a nice outfit.
Ah,
Yeah,
thank you.
I don't have I just let people call me whatever they're gonna call me by default. And because I happen to not have the like, in the whole thing you described with yourself is 100% valid,
Hmm.
where you feel wrong being called by your assigned at birth gender, um,
Hmm.
and that is entirely valid, 100% accurate, and I 100% support anyone who's like, hey, I want you to use these pronouns for me. That is 100% a thing that people should follow. It is the least, like literally the least amount you could do to show the minimum amount of respect to someone is just change one 2 to 3 letter word, or four if it's non-binary and they want to go by they, um,
Yeah.
in how you address them. And usually speaking, from what I've known of these people, um, I don't I is that sorry about these people thing. A lot of people, sometimes people get upset about that, but of people that are going through this, is a lot of times, as long as a person knows that you're trying and that you are doing your best to remember and to work on improving, a lot of the times a lot will be forgiven. It's only like a lot of the times but you need to be trying, you need to be putting effort into it, you need to be doing better. um and that's true of basically everything in your life, but this is just the smallest thing that a lot of that it just makes me feel really sad when people can't even do that.
Yeah.
But
It's genuinely upsetting when people can't even do that, especially when you presented yourself like this from the start. Um,
yeah.
they just kind of just they look at you and you're like, this is your gender that I'm assigning you because that's what you look like to me. And it's like, no.
Yeah, it's like, how can you be they? You have these
You
physical
look.
features that we have arbitrarily assumed have all these connections that have nothing to do with your biology and have packaged up into this idea of gender. Ugh. Despite the fact that everyone has these qualities in them, like male, like people who are born with male genitalia, or whatever chromosomes we would call it, they can be just as tender and caring and loving as people who are born with the opposite gender. Like that's a thing that everyone has, and everyone has traits from both sides. So
Yeah.
I feel like referring like gender is bullshit and a lie, and a thing that people made up in order to categorize other people. Um, and to a certain
I
degree, there
love
is
that.
a
I need that
utility
on
in
a
that.
shirt. Gender's bullshit and a lie.
Yeah, it's, and to a degree, it has utility. Like, yeah, they have this, like on the most basic fundamental level, there is utility in being able to express, I would like to be treated this way, these are the things I value, these are the things that I associate with myself, and that's a good thing. But it should not, it's an archaic system that is used by people who are overly obsessed with tradition and the way that things have always been to them, to enforce
Yeah.
those ideas on other people who just happen to disagree. um and it's just it's really sad. Um, the whole concept is nonsense and should be voluntary, is all I'm saying. Which I don't think anyone here is going to be arguing against.
Very true. Yeah. Um. So I know that like at work and like personal life and such, it's just like it is what it is. But like with your family, are they like accepting? Do they know? Do you plan on
Uh,
like saying anything, or is it just or maybe kind of like me, like I kind of just really don't have much a connection with them. I unfortunately came out to them when my grandmother died. Because everybody's like, why do you hate us so much? I was like, well, because you guys literally said you hated gays. So why the fuck would I come out? I'm a minor and I need somewhere to live.
Because you hate me.
You hate me, so I'm not gonna say anything. And then kind of like now, my mom's still like, look at that guy, he's really hot. And I'll just be like, he's literally not my type. And she'll be like, what's your type? I'm like, women. um,
What's your type? Well, usually they have boobs.
I was like, yeah, usually they got boobs, mom. But is it like a touchy subject with family, or is just in general
um,
family is just a touchy thing? Because I know like in our generation, just family is just not it. They're just sometimes they're not really there for us. Um, I'm not lucky enough to
um,
have a very supportive family, and I know some like people who have come out, they have amazing family and open arms and everything. So if it is a touchy subject, feel free to just disregard it. But if it's something you're open to talk
yeah.
about,
So here's the thing. There are certain things that I'm not going to get into.
yeah,
Not because I feel them as touchy, but because they are other people's business.
of course.
Um, but what I can say is that I haven't directly like gone and specifically told like my brother about it, but I feel like he has an idea, and I doubt he has any issues with any of it because of his whole situation. But a lot of my family do not know. Um,
Okay.
as far as I am aware, just because it's something that I treat as like not only something that I don't really discuss. I don't really discuss it with anyone unless it happens to come up in conversation. So because I see it as 100% a personal thing. Like, I will 100% go out and fight to the death to defend other people's ability to represent themselves as whatever the hell they want to. It's just that I personally see my expression as something that is my business and no one else's, unless I feel like talking about it or it just happens to come up.
Mhm.
Um, it's just not that important to me. So a lot of times, and I don't want that to feel. I hate to word it like that because it can feel really diminishing to people where it is very extremely important, and those people are valid. Like they are correct, like objectively correct. It is extremely important to them. That's just something that you decide for yourself. And if it is important to you, I 100% support you and will do whatever I can to help you get that done. It's just that personally, probably as part of the whole non-binary thing, I don't really have a strong attachment to it, so I just don't bring it up a lot of the time. Um, so I don't think a lot of my family knows. Um, at least one of them probably has a strong idea, but I don't think any of them. I don't think I've directly talked about it to anyone because I haven't really. I mean, first of all, it's been like 3 months, but also, um, I haven't really thought there hasn't really been a point where it was really relevant.
Mhm. Do you ever feel like it's something you'll want to do though? Like maybe when you have
Um,
like a better grasp and understanding of it, or if it's just kind of like, you know what, honestly, it's not much of their business. Um, they're gonna do what they want to do anyways. It's just not worth.
it's probably closer to the latter, but mostly in an idea of like my the way that I see myself is an incredibly personal thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not in that I don't want to talk about it to other people. I'm fine with talking about it. It's personal in that like I don't see it as something that I need to justify to them. And because of the way that I happen to see myself, I don't really see a reason that I need to explain to anyone what it is unless it happens to be the topic of conversation. So I don't really have any strong desire to bring up a conversation on it out of nowhere. Like if it's relevant, yeah, I'll tell them. I don't have any issues with that, and
Yeah.
will come what way. But like, it's not a conversation I'm necessarily going to start just because why? Like, they shouldn't care because I don't care.
Yeah.
Like that. And like to clarify, we should all care about helping people be respected. What I'm really saying is that we shouldn't care in that whatever someone wants to be called, just call them that. It's not hard. It is the easiest thing in the universe. Just do it. It should
Yeah, I
not
agree. No, it definitely is the easiest
be
thing
as
in the
hard
world
as
to
it is
do.
for some people.
And it's free.
It costs you nothing. All that
It
you
costs you
lose is
nothing
the
to be a
ability to
decent
be.
human.
The only thing it costs you is your ability to be a jackass in that specific way. There are plenty of other ways to be a jackass. Apologies for the language.
No, you're fine. We cuss a lot here, don't worry. In terms of like sexuality, like separation from like your character and such, is there like, I know you briefly mentioned about like being attracted to, but is there one like one or the other, both, or you just don't care? Or is there like something you already
um,
identify as?
so as far as sexuality, the way that I feel about that is, I am not interested in a physical relationship with anyone. Period. Like, I
Okay.
think there was a term where it's like I that people that are still like they have romantic attraction, but they're not really um like they're not really interested in actually doing like sexual things. Like that would be asexual. It's just not aromantic. Um, I do have obviously the same biological urges as everyone else does, or well, most. There are people that don't, whatever, but I do have them, and I don't. The thing is that I don't really have any desire to act on them with anyone that exists. Um, is I guess the best way to put it. Like, yeah, like there's whatever goes on in the head, whatever, but there's no desire to act out any of it. It doesn't disgust me or anything. It's just I don't want
Yeah.
to do it. I don't care.
So that would be more
And
towards like asexual.
yeah. And I always assumed this was part of the depression, but then I'm kind of in control of that now, and it's still here, so I guess not.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, and then when I got it under control, I was like, no, okay, I found the desire.
Yeah, like I was like, oh, maybe after I've been on these meds for a while and I've done all these exercises and I get a hold of things, maybe I will find that I actually do like some kind of people in one way or the other. It's like, no, I still think they're hot, but I don't want to bang them.
So some
it's
medications
it's
I
what I
will
am capable of
say,
appreciating that
um,
people are hot. Like if it makes things very hard on Twitter because it could get very confused. Because I imagine it's very confusing when I am simultaneously be like, yeah, I have absolutely no interest in actually smashing or being smashed by literally anyone. And then meanwhile, I'm like 2 posts down the line, I'm like, God damn, this image is hot.
it'd be like that, but I'm the complete opposite. I'm like, throw me against the wall. So I will say that I know that when I was like, depending on medications, it does kill like the drive for it. And then that's where I thought, I was like, that's weird. I have no act or will to want to act on them. And I just didn't find it interesting at all. Like I just never wanted to. And then when I got off it and then I got switched meds, I suddenly found it and I was like, oh, okay, so it wasn't it. But honestly, the way that you're kind of just like talking about it and just in general, like even talking about like the whole gender thing and stuff like that, it does seem a lot more like, yeah, I think just, asexual and existing. I'm here,
Yeah, yeah, because the thing there is that like, it's not that. Look, the drive is there. I 100% can guarantee you that. It's just that it doesn't apply to anyone that I have ever actually seen ever. Like
Okay.
people are
Do
not
you,
hot. I can find images incredibly sexy, and like there's without going into anything too specific, I can 100% guarantee there is a sex drive there. It just doesn't apply to anyone that actually exists.
Do you feel like that will maybe change if it was like someone you might be interested in? And not just like
Like,
images that you see
yes.
online or, just kind of like the people that are around you. You're just like, yeah, you're pretty, but I have no other desires. Like, do you think maybe that could change if it's like you meet someone and it's like you're starting to get to know them and you're like, okay, I think I'm starting to like
Um,
this person?
I'm like, okay, so I am always open to learning new things and seeing
Mm-hmm.
new things. I've had a couple relationships. I don't think I've ever actually had any direct urge to do anything with anyone directly, but
Okay.
at the same time, I am open to that happening 100%. It's just it never has. And legitimately I would be a little worried if it did, given well, I think we will leave that conversation to another day. I think, and because I do not think Twitch will be happy about it. So,
No, it's understandable. Yeah, I was just more so curious because it's like some people feel that way and then they're like, I met someone and I'm gonna be real, I had some thoughts. So, a lot of things can always change. I was just more so kind of like curious if it's just kind of because you mentioned only like online and like you find a picture sexy. So I was like, okay, does that also apply to maybe someone you might find attractive in person or someone you
um,
potentially wanted to be? But that fully answers the question. I mean, it is something that might be possible. It's just kind of, I feel like it's kind of like more situational.
yeah, like I feel like the thing is, um, there are people that I would fantasize about. There is no one I would actually have sex with
I
to
see. Yeah,
fully explain it. Like there is a whole there is a gap there.
I
um,
understand.
yeah, it's a whole thing. Um, so yeah, a lot of that is im- it's the whole thing that I have a hard time talking about it because really talking about it in any amount of depth would require diving into things that I am extremely wary about discussing.
Oh, no, of
Um,
course. We never want to go into that kind of stuff. Only things that you are comfortable talking about or bringing up.
yeah, and the reason I'm wary about it is partly just I don't really like to talk about it all that much myself, and
Mm-hmm.
partly because um I worry a lot about discussing it upsetting people. So
Oh,
I
I
generally just
promise you
won't.
here, I'm literally put on this earth to make people uncomfortable. This is what Beyond the
Well,
Queer is about.
I
We're
believe
here
I
to
saw that
make people
in.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, I believe I have seen a bit of that. I did see one of your streams.
Yeah,
Um,
no, we are here to make people uncomfortable. um,
yeah, because
so
it
even if
very
it's just
much.
like not on stream, if it's something that you ever want to talk to me privately about and you think like maybe the audience would be uncomfortable about it, I guarantee you with me, honestly, it takes a lot to make me uncomfortable. I'm pretty open
Yeah,
and I'm pretty always
private,
open to listen.
privately maybe.
So yeah, so it's like if it's something that you ever just this is just in general, like if you ever just want to talk to anybody, I'm absolutely here for you. My DMs
All
are
right,
literally
that.
always open, and that goes for anybody who's listening as well. Like if anybody ever wants to talk about something that you might think is uncomfortable, or you might not even want to talk to like somebody like you out there, like a licensed professional, and you kind of want to get it out to someone first so you don't sound crazy and get locked up, I'm here for you. I'm an open book. I'm a very open person. I have a very open mind, so I'm always here for anybody who just wants to talk. Um, so just in general, putting it out there for whatever reason, if you ever feel like I feel like I can't talk to anybody about this, I'm here for you. I'm that one person you can tell me something uncomfortable and I'll be like, okay, strange, but let's keep going and let's work this out.
Weird flex, but okay.
That's a way of
Yeah,
keeping a
that's.
seat to keep. Tell me more.
But yeah, yeah, that's very nice of you. I may actually take it up on that at some point. Probably not tonight, but
No, of
in
course,
general,
yeah.
we might talk more
Whenever,
at some point. But
whenever you want. Literally, my DMs are open. If I'm not working and I'm not half asleep, I'm here for you.
um, okay. So was there other questions you wanted to get into or anything like that?
Yes, I
Okay.
wanted to ask if ever at some point because you get into character and such, does it ever cause for like internal confusion because there is that separation? Is there ever a point where they just kind of blend into each other? Because like I mentioned, like for myself, my character's a lot like me in general. Obviously, I'm not a magical sky fox. I'm not purple. I don't got tails and ears, but the persona is very similar to me. Um, so sometimes I'm out here thinking I'm her, that's me. um, but because there is such a huge kind of like separation of them, not huge, but like enough, like you can
There
separate
is a
each
gap.
other. There is a gap. Does it ever feel like it ends up blending into each other or just cause you to just before you start getting into the character or before you start your stream and such, does it ever cause like some sort of conflict with yourself with like yourself, yeah, just like a conflict with yourself?
Um, Thinking about this, I don't think so.
Okay.
The issue with that is like on one point, I almost wish that I was able to swap on that so easily that it could cause some confusion. Like that would be extremely convenient. I have a hard time switching sometimes, but a lot of the time it's just that the the sort of expression that I have for Aish, the main differences are in the lore and in are mostly just exaggerated. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
like I don't identify as any particular gender wholly, and thus I just go by whatever people assume that I am, which is usually male. Meanwhile, Aish does not associate with any gender because they don't have any of them, and they see the reduction of someone's identity to an abstract concept which encompasses an entire swath of the population to be a dire insult worthy of immediate and extreme violence. So Aish is Aish. So yeah, they have some opinions, but mostly they are exaggerated versions of my own opinions. So it's not that difficult now.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, I think just like Aish being Aish is just like you being you as well. I feel like that's where the
Yeah,
similarity is. You guys are just here.
yeah. The difference is primarily in like the background as to why they act that way and the degree to which
Yeah.
they, uh, you know, in I don't want to say enforce it because a lot of times I don't even care if even they are like I understand that humans are not exactly up to understanding with the concept of people's of like identity as a universal concept yet. So
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not gonna get on you about it. So even they aren't gonna get on chat about it all that much. But like yeah, they have a bit of a different opinion on it than I do, but it is mostly in a very nuanced way that's not that easy, not difficult to bridge.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you. Chat, does anybody have any questions for either myself or this guy over here? We'll just open the floor for a little bit. Because I know it is like 9:30 for you, so I don't want to keep you too long either.
It's fine. I got like 2 hours before I need to sleep.
So
So if we
in the
got
meantime,
questions,
I
we got
will look
questions.
over to see if any of are sent in. Give me one sec while we wait for everybody else. Oh, so today's when I learned about paragender. It's Kibby. Every time we have one of these, we're learning new things. We didn't even touch paragender last time.
Yes, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I was also today years old about like paragender because when I was looking at this with Fern, I didn't kind of like scroll down into it, but very interesting as well. Um, let's see. There's one that says, "What type of person are you into?" Like, do
Um,
you personally care about like the gender identity, or or just people in general?
what kind of person are you into?
Yeah, they didn't
So
get into
that's a
detail about
difficult
that. That's so
question.
funny.
That is going to need some nuance, I think. Like I can try to answer the best I can. The issue is, is this meant to be like what kind of person do you find attractive, or is it like what kind of person do you want to do dirty things with? Those are two very different answers.
I think it would be
We've already gone
attractive.
over one of them, so I guess we'll do the attractive one now. Um, is hmm.
Mine are big muscle mommies.
Those are okay. I the issue is going too far into this is gonna out me on some stuff. Whatever. Well, we're here to explore things. We'll go ahead and do it. Um, I like as far as people that I like to fantasize about. I like it's more of a personality thing than a gender thing, but I like people who express very strongly as like very dominant, but are actually fucking kittens and just hold
Okay.
like a fucking paper chair.
Okay. I also like that kind.
Um, apparently we have. I mean, like as far as appearance wise, muscle mommies are pretty good. Non-muscle mommies are also pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, Geddon is a fucking hunk. Like I'm gonna just say that. That's just the truth. Um, like I have sort of I'm very in the very early stages of being able to recognize like no, yeah, dudes can be hot too actually. Because again, it's only been a couple months, so I am still sort of unpacking a lot of things. Where I've sort of realized like no, yeah, I can have a good appreciation for a hot dude. Both in the oh, that is a very good Bishi boy, and also look at them muscles kind of things. Um, I have a wide range of interests. I am
No,
very
honestly, I'm
broadly
living.
invested in the hotness market.
Okay, me, but just women. Like I can acknowledge a man as attractive, but for the most part, I'll end up just being attracted to them because I want to look like them. Not that I want any other thing with them.
Ah,
I just think you are a very handsome man, and I want to look like you. So that's where I get some
yeah,
gender envy. It's never like I want anything
okay.
more with you. I don't know if you know like Boulder's Gate Astorian. I love him. I love the way he looks. I think he's very attractive. I want to look like that, but I don't
You
want to
want
sleep
to
with him.
possess his body.
I want to possess his body.
You
I
want
want
his body,
everything.
but not in a sexy way.
I want not in a sexy way, in a spiritual way that I will draw a pentagram on the floor and take the soul out of his body and put mine in. I will perform witchcraft. So that's kind of how I feel. I'm like the same. Like I can appreciate the way men look, but at the end of the day,
Yeah,
women
you can
does it for
aesthetically
me.
appreciate men, but you have
Yeah.
no like sexual interest in them.
Nope. The minute I see body hair, I gag. Like men's body
Oh
hair. I'm like, I want nothing to do with you anymore. You're not pretty to me.
no.
No.
Okay, but what
I'll
about the
take you
like
from the
very
neck up.
smooth, like very pretty boys?
Oh my god, the
Are
smooth
they
pretty boys.
confusing?
I'm so mad. Why did you look better than me? I want your gender. I
So
see a
you're just
gender
like,
and I
how
steal
dare
it.
you?
How dare you? I
How
look at them
dare
and I
you?
get
Give me your
mad.
body.
Drop your skin routine right now. Where do you shop? No. If anything, because I like wanted to still like the identity of men. That's where it made me question my gender because I was like, I don't think I should be wanting to look like you. I don't think I should be wanting to be in your skin and walk around as you. This isn't normal.
No,
And that's
that's
what.
wanting to wear people's skin is a totally normal impulse. What are you talking about?
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the sub, Henderson. We just be passing around the same $5 from our paycheck. He's my coworker. I think that's
Yes.
really funny.
It's just had half of Twitch is just various streamers giving each other the same $5.
No, it's even funnier because we work together. So he just gave me $5 from his paycheck, and I'm gonna give him $5 from my paycheck.
Yes.
So we're passing around the same $5 from our company.
And Twitch gets half of it each time.
And Twitch gets half of it every time. Yeah, so that's where like gender became confusing for me because I was just like, you are pretty. I want to look like you. I like your gender.
Give it to me.
Give it to me. So that's kind of
Wait
like
a second. I don't
the
think I'm
type of
supposed to
person.
I'm not. I don't think I'm supposed to want their body in this particular way. That's not.
I'm
not how
supposed
this
to
is
want you in a
supposed to work.
different way.
Somebody typoed my fucking brain.
Genuinely, yeah. Like there's been times where I've even questioned my sexuality, even though I've been like a lesbian for years now. At some point, it's just like a male friend will be giving me the attention that I want from a female, and it's like, am I liking you for you, or am I liking you for the attention that you're giving me that I'm not getting it from someone else? Or am I just confused and I don't like just girls and maybe I do like boys? And then I
No
just
one is
remember
simple.
that yeah, and then I just remember that sometimes boys make me gag and I'm just like and not in the fun sexy way, in the way that like I will literally throw up.
Ooh.
So I'm just like, no, I do like girls. Yep, it's girls.
Yeah, like no
Because then
one
I
is
just
simple,
start thinking,
but
yeah. So then I just kind of start
like
thinking
I'm a
like,
firm
can I
believer
see
that
myself with
there's
you?
I am a firm believer in general that no one is going to be any one thing. You just find the thing that
Yeah.
best describes what your experience is, and you go with that. Um, so everyone is equally valid. Well, unless
Yeah.
you say that other people aren't valid, in which case you're bullshit. And get
Then
off
you're
my
not
stream.
valid.
But yeah, that is the only invalid opinion on this. Is that it's not is that someone else isn't valid.
Reverse Uno, bitch,
You are
you're
the
invalid.
exception, and that's not a good thing.
Very good. So
Yeah,
that's where Coco gets it from? Yes. Coco, my dog wants to be in my skin. She will literally go up into my neck and just squeezes herself further into me. And I'm like, you can't get any possibly closer than you are right now.
Dog, we cannot merge. This is not.
If we could, I genuinely believe that she would.
Oh no. Full Metal Alchemist flashbacks in the chat.
Oh no, no. No.
Oh, then you might get the ears. They're not quite the same ears, but maybe.
No. Is Coco your new pup? No, Coco is my 4-year-old dachshund that I've had. My new pup is Stella. If you go to the Saturday chat, Henderson, I posted the picture of them both, saying have a good weekend from the girls. So if you have Slack on your phone, you can see Stella. But yeah, I've been talking about my new dog at work forever. We had like a customer service appreciation week, and I won a couple games, and then the last game was like a tic-tac-toe game, and I was just like, you guys, if we, because like they gave us a gift card, and I was like, guys, remember, I'm adopting a dog. I need this gift card.
I'm adopting a dog.
And I ended up winning. I ended up winning fair and square, but I just thought it was really funny that I ended up winning.
Everyone else threw.
No. These people were genuinely thinking about where they were placing their X's and O's. I'm a competitive rock paper scissors.
It is very powerful.
Very powerful. I hope you had fun. I had a lot of fun. It's serious though. It was so serious. So serious. But before we end this, does anybody have any other questions for us? It doesn't even have to be anything that we're talking about. Maybe we have some insight on something that you've been curious about, or if any like the gender stuff that we were talking about maybe like piqued some sort of interest or like triggered anything in your little brain that now you are questioning and want to hear more about, or specifically one like a question about one of us that you kind of want to get into. Please be respectful, keep that in mind, and respect our boundaries. I know for the most part we're both very open about it, but don't make us uncomfortable. I will bonk you. I will hurt you. Hi,
Good morning,
Shadow.
Shadow. Welcome to the stream.
Good morning. I hope you had a good trip and the drive wasn't too bad. I know it was a couple days ago. But for the most part, I hope this was somewhat helpful for you. I know we mostly talked about like gender identity and stuff.
Nice talk.
And threw out a couple things. Um, yeah, I know that you're still fairly early on in like the journey. So hopefully this kind of helps a little bit, it just kind of gets it out there.
It, I will at least say that it has helped me putting it into words. Has sort of helps solidify it a little more. But
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
I think I've got a decent, like I said, I got a decent grip on it. I feel like at this point. How'd the talk go? I feel like the talk went really good.
I think that talk
Personally,
went well.
um, seems like we didn't have many notes, so I guess we covered most of what people were curious about.
I think so too. Yeah, I tried to kind of go off of what like you gave me and did a little research on like some like gender identities, but I also kind of just didn't want to like get into a discussion like privately because then we wouldn't have anything to talk about. So
No,
I didn't want
yeah,
to ask too many questions either. But again, like my DMs are always open for you if you just even want someone to talk to. Um, or just feel like, honestly, I don't think anybody would understand me right now, and you just kind of just want to throw out some thoughts, my DMs are there. I'm always down for calls and stuff like that, or just messaging and stuff like that. That again, open to anybody
all
in the
right.
community that's listening. Um, I'm not certified or anything, but I know that having an open door, lessens, you know, people, not necessarily that I say that you're going to harm yourself or like the community is going to harm themselves, but having an open door lessens like the risks, and, knowing that someone is there for you is nice. So even in moments where you feel like no one's here for you or like you think no one's going to understand you, I may not know what's actually going on. And again, I'm not licensed or anything, but at least, I'll listen and I'm not going to
If,
judge.
if if you need to talk about something to someone who will listen, you have this wonderful person here. If you need a therapist, get a therapist.
Yeah, get a therapist. Seek help. Don't go to betterhelp.com though. Go somewhere else.
Get an actual therapist, not a
Yeah, I
chatbot.
go. I've heard some terrible things about BetterHelp recently. Don't go there. Don't give them their money.
Just like most places that offer therapy, not only are they you from what I've experienced myself, there are some very wonderful people out there that do that. And a lot of them do have plans where if you do have issues with income or insurance or whatever, they have plans where they will charge based on what you can afford to pay. Every single one I've been to has had something like that where they'll work with you on that. So if you need to talk to someone and you need professional help, you should look into getting it, because that can be very important. It can help with a lot of things. Even if you don't
So,
think that you need it, you should honestly consider it anyway.
speaking about therapy, you might not need this now, but there is gender therapists, or there is like actual therapists that can talk out about like sexuality and gender. I don't know if like where you live and such like that. Um, I know when I was like seeking like help when my grandmother passed away and I was genuinely struggling with my mental health and my gender identity at the time, I did find a therapist that specialized in grieving and the gender identity. So I don't know if you knew this, so I'm just throwing it out there. There is therapists that specialize in that kind of stuff. If you ever get to the
Yeah.
point where like it just becomes a lot more like of a load, and it's just like
If I find I need
I'm struggling. But
Yeah,
I just wanted to throw that out there.
I
I
might
didn't.
consider it when we get around to that, but
Yeah. Um, for the most part, when I did it, they just kind of like what we're doing now, but they obviously have a lot more of insight than I do.
yeah, they got all the
um,
training and stuff. Like it's if they're good. Like
yeah,
there are
yeah,
some
if
people
they're
who have the
good.
license and they're just not very good at it and they just give you a paper and then don't do anything. But like
Yeah,
there's some
definitely.
legitimately very caring, very helpful people in the field. And obviously if one doesn't work for you, go find another one. Like there's
Yeah.
this is a thing you have to figure out. And sometimes it takes a couple tries before you get someone who will work for you.
Oh yeah, I think like when I was struggling, I think I went through two therapists and then I found somebody that was helpful. Something
Yeah.
was like psychiatrists. I went to three and then I finally found one that was helpful. Um, but
I legitimately think that a lot of people would be, even ones that think they're like, oh, I don't need a therapist, I'm fine, would be greatly helped by having a therapist.
true, very true. Well, I think that is pretty much it. Let me just refresh the question queue really quick just to make sure if anything came in while we were talking. Let's see. No. Okay. So I think we are good. Thank you so much for coming and, applying. I know we didn't talk for much, but I really, really hope this kind of helped talk it out. Like we both said, it's still early in your journey.
A little
I
over an
hope
hour.
to
That's
like hear from you again, and kind of see where your journey's going, get a little update about you. I'm excited for you, it's something different and exciting but terrifying journey to go through. But honestly, I'm very proud of you from coming from where you came from before, struggling, to where you are now. And being able to talk about these things. I know it's not easy, but it's nice to hear that you're definitely in a better mental state. And you're grasping kind of like understanding and grasping where you are than, just being completely lost.
yeah. Um, yeah, and I really do feel like I've been incredibly fortunate with my journey in that it's been relatively smooth.
Hmm.
Um, and a lot of people have it a lot worse off. That doesn't make me not valid. It doesn't make
No,
the
of
path
course
I've been on
not.
not valid.
Yeah.
But like I do recognize that like I have been incredibly fortunate the way everything has played out for me, where I don't have to deal with a lot of the issues that people have with this kind of thing. I can if I choose to, and I definitely will when it's important for people. But it's not something I necessarily am required to in everyday interactions. I don't have the same. Um, yeah, I've had a very smooth road, and I've sort of reached a point where I'm sort of understanding myself to a good degree, and I've reached a point where understanding more is very much just personal exploration things. So
Yeah.
I'll definitely be reaching out to you if I have anything more I want to talk about on the personal side or anything like
Of
that.
course. Yeah.
It has been it's been great to be here and to talk to you and be able to share everything and talk about it. It has, I think, helped a little with at least being able to put things into words,
Yeah.
which is important. Being able to explain what I feel is just as important as being able to understand it myself.
Yeah, I was gonna say not necessarily like finding the labels, but at least finding the words, you know? And like
Yeah,
the
being
when you find the words, it just kind of makes it easier for yourself and others to kind of understand, which even others, you definitely don't know it to anybody. Like they can go fuck themselves. What does it matter to them? It's more important to like
yeah,
what it means to you and like grasping and understanding you, because it's like
yeah,
going out in the world and not even knowing who you are, like just being lost and, just not understanding yourself is scary. I think, everyone deserves to know and feel whole, feel like themselves, feel like I finally understand who I am, what I am, and what I'm here for. And what I'm here for
hmm
is another loaded ass thing that we could talk about forever. But at least I hope this helped in some way. Um, yeah.
what we're here for. The meaning of life is self referential.
I was like, that's gonna be a lot.
Um, and I, as far as being able to understand it myself, I have a decent grasp. The issue is mostly being able to express it in words. Like I have it a sort of
Yeah.
at this point an intuitive understanding of what exactly I'm dealing with here. It's just I don't think I ever got to the point where I was actually being able to outright explain it in a direct fashion before. So at least being sort of made to at least try to do that has helped. Um, Even if like, yeah, I kind of I don't I think everything we've talked about has been something that I was already pretty sure of, but
Okay.
having a better grasp of how to describe it is a useful thing.
Okay.
And being
I'm
able to
glad.
talk about it and get it out there does feels good.
Okay. I'm glad.
Okay, I'm sure you have some kind of plans, so probably don't want to hold you too much.
I'm winging the rest of the night, but thank you so much for being here and taking the time to be here. I really, really appreciate it.
All right.
Okay. Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye bye. Okay, guys. I'm going to stop stream and then restart for VOD's sake. Give me 1 second.